Imagine standing on a hillside in ancient Galilee. The air is cool, the crowd around you is enormous, thousands of people. Farmers, fishermen, tax collectors, the sick, the poor, the desperate, and the curious. And then a man sits down. In the ancient world, teachers sat down to teach. It was a sign of authority. And as he opens his mouth, what comes out is arguably the most radical, the most challenging, and the most influential speech in all of human history. This is the Sermon on the Mount. Found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapters 5 through 7, this single sermon has shaped civilizations, inspired revolutionaries, comforted the suffering, and challenged the powerful for over 2,000 years. Today, we're going to walk through it, word by word, idea by idea, and ask the question that has haunted readers for centuries. What did Jesus actually mean? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might completely change how you understand this text.
Setting the stage. To understand the Sermon on the Mount, we need to understand the world Jesus was speaking into. It was approximately 30 AD. The Jewish people were living under Roman occupation. Taxes were crushing. The religious elite, the Pharisees and scribes, had built an elaborate system of rules around the Torah, the Jewish law. Many people felt spiritually suffocated. Others had given up entirely. Into this world walks a carpenter from Nazareth. He has no official religious title, no temple appointment, no Roman endorsement, yet crowds follow him everywhere because something about the way he speaks is different. The Gospel of Matthew tells us that Jesus went up on a mountain, and this detail is not accidental. In Jewish tradition, mountains are places where God speaks. Moses received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. Elijah heard the voice of God on a mountain. Now, on a different hillside, a new voice is speaking. And the first words out of his mouth? They're not a warning. They're not a threat. They're not a command. They are blessings. The Beatitudes. The word comes from the Latin beatus, meaning blessed or happy. There are 8 of them, and each one turns the world upside down. Let's read them slowly. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is the first and perhaps the most puzzling. Poor in spirit. Not the proud, not the confident, not the powerful. The poor in spirit. Those who know they are spiritually empty, who come to God with nothing to offer. Jesus is saying that emptiness is not a disqualification, it is a doorway. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. In a world that tells us to put on a brave face, to smile through the pain, to be strong, Jesus says, grieve, mourn. Your tears are not weakness. Comfort is coming. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Meekness is wildly misunderstood. We think it means being a pushover, but in the original Greek, the word is praus. It describes a powerful horse that has been trained, strength under control. The meek are not the weak. They are the powerful who choose restraint, who choose gentleness. And Jesus says they will inherit the earth, not the conquerors, not the emperors, the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Hunger and thirst are survival instincts. Jesus is saying, have that same desperate, urgent longing for what is right, for justice, for integrity, and you will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. A simple equation. What you give, you receive. Mercy shown becomes mercy received. This is not karma, it's a relational reality woven into the fabric of human community. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Not the religiously correct, not the theologically educated, the pure in heart, those whose motives are clean, whose inner life matches their outer life. These are the ones who will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God.
not the peacekeepers, those who simply avoid conflict. Peacemakers are active. They build bridges. They enter into conflict to resolve it. They absorb hostility to create harmony. Jesus says these people bear a family resemblance to God Himself. And finally this, if doing the right thing costs you everything, your reputation, your freedom, your safety, you are not abandoned. You are right at the center of the kingdom. 8 blessings, 8 reversals. Everything the world values, power, status, certainty, victory, is turned on its head. And Jesus is just getting started.
Salt and light. After the Beatitudes, Jesus shifts to imagery. 2 images that have echoed through history. You are the salt of the earth. In the ancient world, salt was extraordinary. It preserved food. It added flavor. It was so valuable that Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in it, which is where we get the word salary. To call someone the salt of the earth was to call them essential, preserving, life-giving. But then Jesus adds a warning. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything. The message is clear. Salt that doesn't function as salt is worthless. A follower who doesn't actually follow, who blends entirely into the surrounding culture, has lost their purpose. You are the light of the world. Not you could be, not you might become, you are, present tense. And no one, Jesus says, lights a lamp and hides it under a bowl. Light is meant to illuminate. It's meant to be seen, not for personal glory, but so that others, seeing what is good, might find their way.
Fulfilling the law. Now comes a statement that would have electrified his Jewish audience. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. The Jewish law, the Torah, was the sacred foundation of Jewish identity. Every word was precious. So when a traveling teacher from Galilee starts reinterpreting it, tensions run high. But Jesus says, I'm not canceling the law. I'm completing it. And then he does something remarkable. 6 times in this sermon, he says, you have heard that it was said, but I tell you. He takes a commandment, murder, adultery, divorce, oaths, retaliation, love, and he deepens it. He goes beneath the surface behavior and asks about the inner reality. You've heard, don't murder, but what about the anger that drives it? You've heard, don't commit adultery, but what about the lust that precedes it? You've heard, love your neighbor, but what about your enemy? Jesus is not adding new rules. He is revealing the spirit behind the rules and asking whether our hearts are truly transformed or just our behavior. Anger, lust, and reconciliation. Let's slow down on a few of these radical reinterpretations. On anger, anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. This is not a prohibition on all anger. Jesus himself gets angry. This is about contemptuous, dehumanizing anger. The word he uses is raka, a term of utter contempt. The point is, before you bring your offering to God, go and reconcile with the person you've wronged. Vertical religion cannot substitute for horizontal relationships. On lust, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. This is not about attraction. This is about the predatory gaze, the act of treating another human being as an object for consumption. Jesus is protecting the dignity of persons by locating the problem not in the act, but in the objectifying intention. And his solution, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out, is deliberately extreme. He's not recommending self-mutilation. He's using hyperbole to say, whatever is feeding your destructive patterns, cut it off.
ruthlessly. It's not worth it. The Lord's Prayer. Let's break this apart. Our Father, not my Father. This prayer is communal. We pray together. The very first word roots us in relationship and community. Hallowed be your name. Before any request, there is worship. Before we ask for anything, we orient ourselves toward what is ultimate. Your kingdom come, your will be done. This is surrender. Not resignation, but the active choice to align our will with something larger, more just, more beautiful than our own agenda. Give us today our daily bread. Not tomorrow's bread, not next year's bread, today's. This is a prayer against anxiety, against hoarding, against the illusion that we can secure our own future. Forgive us as we have forgiven. Notice, our forgiveness is tied to our willingness to forgive. Not because God is keeping score, but because an unforgiving heart cannot truly receive forgiveness. The two are spiritually linked. Lead us not into temptation. An honest acknowledgement, we are fragile, we need guidance, we cannot navigate moral complexity alone. In 6 lines, Jesus gives us a complete spiritual posture: worship, surrender, dependence, forgiveness, and humility. Do not worry. Later in the sermon, Jesus turns to one of the most universal human experiences: anxiety. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. And then he points to 2 things in nature. The birds of the air, they don't sow or reap, yet they are fed. The lilies of the field, they don't labor or spin, yet they are clothed more beautifully than Solomon in all his glory. This is not a call to laziness or irresponsibility. It's a call to trust. It's an invitation to notice that the universe is not hostile, that there is a generosity woven into the fabric of existence, and that obsessive, consuming anxiety about the future is both spiritually corrosive and ultimately futile. Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? The answer, of course, is no. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Get the priorities right. Orient yourself toward what is truly good, truly just, truly real, and the anxious scrambling for security will begin to dissolve. The golden rule and the closing. We're nearing the end of the sermon now, and Jesus lands on what many consider the ethical core of everything he taught. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. The golden rule. It sounds simple. It is not simple, because it requires something radical: imagination. It requires you to step outside yourself, to enter into the perspective of another person, to ask not what do I want, but what would I want if I were in their position. This single sentence has been called the foundation of human ethics. Versions of it appear in nearly every major religion and moral philosophy in the world. Confucius taught it, the Rabbi Hillel taught it, the Buddha taught it. But Jesus frames it not as a minimum, not as at least don't do harm, but as a maximum: do unto others, actively, generously, proactively. And then Jesus closes with 2 powerful images. The 2 gates. A wide gate leads to a broad, easy road and destruction. A narrow gate leads to a hard road and life. The point is not that salvation is difficult to access. The point is that the path of genuine transformation is not the path of least resistance. It costs something. The 2 builders. One man builds his house on sand. When the storm comes, it collapses. Another builds on rock. The storm hits and the house stands. Jesus says, hearing these words is not enough. Knowing them is not enough. The only thing that matters is whether you actually build your life on them, whether you live them. The crowd who heard this sermon that day were, Matthew tells us, astonished, because he taught as one who had authority, not like the teachers of the law. Something about it felt different.
It didn't just tell people what to do, it described a way of being. It painted a picture of a human life fully alive, not through power or status or religious performance, but through mercy, purity, peacemaking, and love. 2,000 years later, people are still astonished because the Sermon on the Mount doesn't let us off the hook. It doesn't allow us to be religious on the outside and unchanged on the inside. It asks us to go deeper into our anger, our lust, our anxiety, our pride, and to be transformed there at the root. It calls us to a kind of love that doesn't make sense by the world's standards. Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, pray for those who persecute you. It gives us a prayer that reorients everything. It gives us a golden rule that could, if actually practiced, change the world. Whether you approach this text as a Christian, as someone of another faith, or simply as a person searching for wisdom, the Sermon on the Mount deserves your full attention, because very few documents in human history have had more to say about what it means to be human and how we might learn, slowly, painfully, beautifully, to live together.